Luke, what got you into this world? What got you into hobbying and painting and gaming?
So I've always been a little bit more interested in like the fantasy side of like culture. Like when I was a kid, like all your Disney movies like Hercules and all that sort of stuff were always like my favorite movies growing up. And sort of, I had three cousins that I grew up with. We all sort of like the same things. We're around that age that Lord of the Rings came to cinemas when we were young-ish. And so it all sort of spawned from there. Because obviously at the time, GW started doing the Middle-earth miniature game. And yeah, from there we got into Warhammer Fantasy, and it's sort of been that ever since.
Yeah, cool. What's your famous? What's your favorite type of like Warhammer storyline?
I will say like so. Probably I'm big on the Thanquol series from Warhammer Fantasy and the Orion trilogy. Wood Elves and Skaven were almost my thing back in Warhammer Fantasy, and so Thanquol and Orion. My son is named Orion as well, so that should be enough there on how much I like my Wood Elves.
yeah, I'm picking it up now. Yeah, cool. A favorite army?
Probably my Wood Elves, whether that be from Warhammer Fantasy or playing them for when they did exist in Age of Sigmar. Other than that, probably my Scourge Privateers, my pirates. That's sort of what started the whole YouTube journey for me, was playing with them. The Dark Elf Pirate Army back when they existed, before Cities of Sigmar was the thing.
Yep. And how did you get your YouTube channel started? Because it's really it's boomed, hasn't it?
Yeah, so originally I was just like mucking around with it. I wanted something to do. It was sort of testing the waters, sort of seeing how it could be a thing, and really it sort of stuck in when COVID hit. So I was a chef by trade for like 13 years, and COVID hit. When we went into lockdown, we were the first to lose our jobs. And so at that point, I had nothing better to do. So it sort of just spawned from there, hit at sort of the right time, and sort of grew from there.
Yeah, cool. Did you? So I think a lot of people that have YouTube channels, it seems like it starts off slow and then all of a sudden just ramps up and goes out of control. Did you have a point where that happened, and what do you think changed?
So definitely when the hobby started getting a little bit more notice on the outside world, like, and when people didn't have a lot to do, like I said, COVID was definitely the big sort of boom. I went from a few hundred subscribers to about 10K over that first sort of period of COVID. And that was mostly due to a lot of new people coming into the hobby. And that's sort of where I found what I enjoy doing most with the hobby, is getting new people into it. So the channel generally focuses on having people, it's sort of the baby's first Warhammer, or baby's first wargaming, I like to think of it. Well, that is the first steps, because there's plenty of stuff out there that's more experienced if you want to go in depth, to competitive. This is sort of, let's take those first steps together, is what we aim to do.
Yeah, cool. And you do a fair bit of filming at our stores. Do you sort of film with experienced players or new players, or a bit of both?
Bit of both. So we've generally come out to prospects. I'm for those who don't know how Adelaide sort of works, I'm much further north than maybe Adelaide's a very big sprawl. For those watching who don't know what Adelaide's like, it's a big sprawling city despite its small population. And I'm quite far north. So I come into Prospect to sort of meet halfway with a bunch of people that are maybe on the other side of the city. And we do play with people with like all experience levels. Generally, the only rule of thumb is it has to be painted to be on the channel. And that can be any skill level. We don't have bias to whatever skill level your painting is at. If you've got it painted, we'll play it.
Yeah, cool. And talking about painting, what's your painting methodology like? Are you sort of someone that spends a lot of time painting one miniature, or do you sort of batch paint, or?
Yeah, so I spend a lot of time painting, but not necessarily the same miniatures. I do have like those armies that like I like to go all out on. That's more my Wood Elves. So like generally my favorite armies are the ones I'll spend the most time on. They're sort of like the leisure projects, but because we do the YouTube full time and all that, we always have something new on the desk that needs to be painted for a release, for a new faction coming out. And so a lot of like my work is it needs to be done to. Sorry, no, we'll skip. So a lot of my painting needs to be done in a timely manner. And generally this will be large batches of miniatures in a timely manner if it's particular games, like 40k, Age of Sigmar, Warhammer Fantasy, Conquest, that sort of games that have lots of miniatures. So batch painting is very important and planning out how we're going to get that stuff done. And even with skirmish games, we'll generally not be painting a miniature for a skirmish game, we'll be painting an entire faction for a skirmish game at once. So even, games that have 5 or 6 miniatures on the side, we might be painting all 20 to 30 options that game has at once.
Yeah, cool. And you're running one of our master classes on Sunday. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the idea we're going to try and do that is getting things ready for camera. And so the idea on that is how we paint to make things look good on camera. There is sort of a way and sort of some things that maybe you might learn in other classes that aren't going to be applicable to making something look good at that 5-foot view, that old adage of like, is it 5 foot good or 3 foot good, however you want to say it. We generally use like a lot of bright colors, a lot of more striking sort of edge highlights and stuff like that. Things that really make all the different bits of the miniature that you want to pop. Because you can have the most amazingly painted miniature on camera, but if it's in drab browns and drab greens, it's not going to show how good its quality is. It's not going to show the miniature off on a camera as well as it might if it's painted in like a bright red and a bright yellow or something like that. And so that's the idea that we're going to try and do, is getting these miniatures to a good standard, quick, and also making them look good on the table, and that striking sort of part on the table.
Yeah, fantastic. And how did you learn how to do that yourself? What steps did you have to do that?
So definitely, I will say, like GW's painting methodology, that whole sort of base, wash, highlight, or layer highlight, that sort of methodology is definitely something that really works to get stuff on the camera. Because funnily enough, GW want to do the exact same thing with their models. They want to, the models on the box art, they want to look striking. And a lot of companies will do the same thing. You'll generally find like a lot of companies that sell miniatures will have 2 miniatures that they might have of the painted up. They'll have that miniature that's the box art color, but then they'll also have, their heavy metal painters that go all out and make a miniature, with non-metallic metals and all that. But generally it was a lot of stuff at GW. Duncan was sort of definitely what got me into painting a lot more. For those who don't know, two thin coats, really good line of paints, funnily enough, for what we're doing as well. They sort of add to the GW range quite well. They're sort of reminiscent of some of the old ones that exist. But yeah, that was sort of how we sort of get stuff done and stuff.
Yeah, amazing, mate. What gets you really passionate in this world at the moment? What's sort of really driving you to get better or improve your YouTube channel?
So definitely it is seeing like the growth and everything, but also like we'll like release a video saying getting started with whatever army, Skaven or Nords or whatever, in whatever game, and seeing someone go, oh, cool, I've been looking for this, like seeing the comment going, this is exactly what I wanted to hear, or seeing them go, look, I literally bought the army and the things you said in the video or something like that, and seeing people like actually get use out of the information, or going, oh, I looked at your video, but I like this miniature, so I subbed in this to the list that you made, I changed it up slightly, made it my own. And that sort of seeing people get use out of the information we're trying to provide is always like the biggest motivator to get some more stuff done.
If you had to give some advice to someone that's really thinking of jumping into the hobby but hasn't quite made that step yet, what advice would you give?
So as Nike would say, just do it. As with any sort of hobby, there is no other way than to just jump into it. Maybe not, spend $2,000 on a 2,000-point army or whatever, but just buying that first box of miniature, buying your first couple of paints. There are a bunch of really cool sort of starter ways into different games. Doesn't matter what sort of game system it is. There's almost always a starter set or a faction starter set. There's Games Workshop are really good with like the painting sets with like a couple of miniatures. You've obviously got the magazines that come out for Games Workshop as well at the moment from Hatchet, which are fantastic. That was a massive thing we saw when I forget the name of it. I think it was Stormbringer, the first one that came out during COVID with all like the Stormcast and Nighthorn. We saw like in the Age of Sigmar community, so many Stormcast and Nighthorn armies just appear from that with people we'd never seen, we've never heard from, just coming to games days. It was a massive thing. So just getting those first couple of minis, don't have to go all in. You don't have to have enough to play a massive game. Because like the game is one part of the hobby. You've got a game, you've got painting, you've got building. They're generally like the three sort of pillars of the hobby. And you can do any of them and don't have to do the others. I know plenty of people that don't like building models. They get other people to build their models. I know plenty of people that don't like painting. And so they get commission painters to do their stuff. And plenty of people that don't play games. I know so many people with miniatures that have never touched any of the games.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I know a few people like that myself. Which is, what would you tell those people in terms of like what attracts you to the playing aspect of Warhammer?
For me, it's all about that sort of storytelling aspect. So being someone who like stuff like D&D and all your role play games, the storytelling aspect is always a fun part of like my games. I enjoy playing with like the big name characters. I enjoy painting up an army or a faction with a story to it. That's sort of what drives me to get into a game more than anything. You can have the best rule set in the world, I find, but if you've got no story to your game, people fail to connect. I mean, if I want to play a good game, I'll go play chess. It's a good game, and I don't need a story for it. But if I'm going to buy and paint miniatures, I want a reason to have those miniatures. So, like, story always drives me, no matter whether it's at a tournament or wherever. If I'm not playing to a story, it's got no interest to me.
Yeah. It's Games Workshop has an amazing, amount of history, an amazing amount of lore that is all inbuilt into it, isn't it? So that story is super important.
Yeah, and like it's not just Games Workshop. I think more companies have like clicked onto this. Obviously, you've got game systems that have like massive IPs behind them. So Marvel Crisis Protocol. We play ones like the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms game as well that we've got. There's also the Halo game that's just came out and a bunch of those. But also like seeing like a game like Kings of War, which sort of made its name initially off being totally not Warhammer Fantasy. Seeing them really look to expand like their story and their lore and like the newer sort of generations of the game they brought out has been really positive for me to want to play that game. And then obviously Conquest is another really good one that's got an amazing sort of story. Everything's sort of story driven to the point they release models based on the story, which is really cool.
Are there any sort of niche, smaller tabletop games that you've sort of been looking at that haven't yet released that you really got your eye on?
I wouldn't say haven't been released yet. We have picked up a couple of new games. So probably, I mean, it's a big IP behind it, but it's relatively small community-wise. We've got a few of us that play. Is the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms. Being, of a certain age, I've got way too many hours into Skyrim, like many people I'm sure have. Skyrim and Oblivion have clocked, and even Morrowind back in the day, have clocked way too many hours of my life. But we just picked up another game by a company called Nervosa Games, which is called Tribal Conquest, which looks really fun. And games like Moonstone, if you like all that dark sort of fantasy, Labyrinth, Never-Ending Story, Dark Crystal stuff. That's a really cool game. The whole mechanic behind that game is the game, like the card game cheat instead of dice. It's a really interesting mechanic behind the game. But other like especially like just playing like the lesser known games. There'll be even Games Workshop's own like lesser sort of games like Warcry and Warhammer Underworlds we really like as well. The ones that aren't maybe as popular as, sort of the bigger games.
Yep. Where do you see this hobby heading in the future?
I mean, the hobby's only gone strength from strength, and that is in part thanks to Games Workshop, who've, they are a multi-billion-dollar company now. They're publicly traded. They're able to sort of push out and lead by example. But I think what that's done now is, while they are by far the majority of the market, they've allowed these other games to exist because there is so much influx of people into the communities now. People are able to explore more than they ever did. It's, 10 years ago, I could remember struggling to find people to even play like an Age of Sigmar game and anything that wasn't 40k, where now, Age of Sigmar 40k, 30k, Old World, plenty of people playing them. But now we're seeing those smaller communities of things like Conquest, that we have a pretty good community that rocks up once a month at Tabletop Warfare Prospect. I know you've got Marvel Crisis Protocol nights, you've got Infinity nights there, which are two other games that have really grown in like the space. Of course, Marvel has the massive IP, the massive intellectual property behind it. But seeing all those smaller games be able to pick up players and have like those 8 to 12 players rock up regularly now is been a massive thing that the community's been able to do and grow the hobby in general.
Where do you see the future of your YouTube channel?
So a big thing for me is I'm a dad. I've got my own 3 kids. One of them is in full-time care for us. My daughter's autistic, non-verbal. So taking YouTube full-time was a massive benefit for me, because obviously I can work from home now, which is just massive for that aspect of my life. And YouTube, we just aim to keep growing. I mean, we keep doing more and more work on it. It keeps growing. And we probably want to try and see like how far we can take it in that. Definitely it would be good to maybe be eventually the part where I'm not sort of almost solo doing everything. That would be nice to have someone else come in eventually. So I do have like regular helpers that help out, and we, help them as well. They get all the freebies for coming on the channel. But it would be nice to sort of see that next sort of step of like being able to have maybe an employee, maybe someone to help out with all the painting that needs to get done. That would be the next level. That would be great.
Amazing, mate. Well, I think we have covered everything I would love to cover. Is there anything else you wanted to sort of shout out or talk about before we finish up?
Yeah, there's probably one thing. So for those who don't know, I run the Dadhammer Support Network. It's a wargaming group specifically for wargaming dads, and probably gaming dads is a better thing, because we do have like a lot of people that come from card games and video game sort of backgrounds, and even board game backgrounds in there as well. You'll find it on Facebook. We also have a Discord, which you can find the link to through the Facebook group and all that. And the idea is it's a dad group first, gaming group second. So you're talking with like-minded people that can help you with sort of dad issues, the not sleeping with your first baby and all that sort of stuff that comes with that. We actually received the Warhammer Hero Award for it this year, which was really cool. We were nominated personally by a couple of members in the group, and we got the award from Games Workshop, which was really great. But that's just been a massive thing from something when I started and had my first kid. I'm sort of the first of my friendship group to have kids. So I sort of had no one to talk to about dad life. And then meeting people through the Warhammer community, going to events just before my daughter was born. We sort of made like a little group, and that spawned into having things all over the world now. It should be in White Dwarf in June. There should be a whole article about the group that spawned in England, which now meet up at Warhammer World once a month. There's groups all over the world in like Scandinavian countries. There's groups in America, all over the world for Dadhammer now, where you'll find sort of like-minded people. If you are a wargaming dad, no, unfortunately, the group is just for wargaming dads. If you're not a dad, you won't get accepted. Because most of the stuff in there is, child-specific talk and dad-like talk. You'll probably find most of it boring anyway if you're not a parent.
Yeah, I'm a month away from becoming a new father, first-time father. So Maybe I'll have to join.
Yeah, look, it a great group for having like just those little like questions and like those doubts, because like we all had them and we still have them. Like I'm 3 kids in now and I still have doubts and still have questions and answers, and it's great. Like there's a couple of dudes in there that I know are granddads as well, so there's like lots of experience in there. There are stepdads in there, there are foster dads, all sort of range of people in there from different walks of life and different experience, which is always helpful.
Cool. And best way to connect with your local group?
So you'll generally find the Dad Hammer group, the Facebook group. The Discord is really good because it's got sort of area specific stuff in the Discord, where you can go in chats and sort of look for people around like your country. At the moment is what we've got based in there. You'll definitely be able to find like local people though. I mean, I've met a couple of people I didn't know existed through the Dad Hammer chats and stuff that I now play with regularly.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. Well, Luke, thank you so much for spending time chatting with me today. I really appreciate it, and really looking forward to seeing your masterclass on Sunday. Is going to be really cool.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thank you very much.